Hello and welcome to the 1916 Company. I'm Tim Mosso. This is Watches Tonight. This evening, my favorite Omega Seamasters and the watch that got me started as a watch collector. This is going to be a look back, but also a look forward. We chat live and I share your viewer wrist chats tonight on Watches Tonight. Garrett is on the switcher. We got an ace in our corner. In the box, we've got Rich Mitch, Soma R from Europe, Eric Nielsen, we got Randall K, we got Sean Hansen, a good friend, Jim Millett, another good friend from the UK, Edward Ledden of Sweden, Moto Gunner from Athens, Georgia, Enrique Casiano, Michael everywhere, specifically from Manhattan. Michael, I believe you're in the show tonight. We got Paul Steinberg, we got Neil B, Dr. B, good to see you. Miroslav joining in from Europe, Randy and Bastien, welcome, Edward. I can see we've got Bastien joining in from Zurich, one of the nicest places I've ever visited. We got Watch Addict 247, staying up late in Dubai, maybe even early at this point. Abdul from Germany and David K, welcome one and all. It's good to see friends. Okay, while we're warming up, do me a favor because there's always something new to be seen on my Instagram, Tim_Mosso. It's like a museum of things you can buy. If you've ever imagined going to a museum, picking out your favorite exhibits and walking home with them, that's what this is, and it's updated daily. Plus, you're going to see things here that are not on our website, so it's sort of off the menu. It's like ordering a double cheeseburger with mac sauce. All right, we got Danny in the box, and I love when you guys say hello to each other. Like, we're a community here, and I love that. Viewers chats number 1, V12 Fanatic. Sports a high-performance machine of his own, Lanka Odysseus chronograph at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Congratulations, Lando Norris. We got Roberto C, not Roberto Coin, but Roberto C on the job with his Patek Philippe 5205G annual calendar. Jeff S pulls no punches, as he usually does, with a full gold, full bracelet Laurent Ferrier Sport Auto. Thinking differently, we have Ben 10, a regular in our box, with his classic Patek Philippe Calatrava 3919, proving elegance needs no Nautilus. Michael D shares the Philippe Dufour Duality, which was soon to auction at Phillips, and it did okay, considering it doesn't have fingers. Not bad, but you know, for a watch that doesn't have fingers. I gotta be honest, every time I see the FFC, it reminds me of the Thanos Infinity Gauntlet. I can't keep a straight face when I look at that watch. But I'm happy that FFC himself did well. Hopefully this will allow him to pay down his movie debts. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com to see your pieces on these pixels. We got Dark Star. We have Michael Everywhere, who acknowledges his shout out. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. We got Kevin C joining in. My goodness, this is going to be a good one. We have a shout out to our happy horologists, and we are Venom, a friend and a alumnus of our Collector Conversations. James, good to see you. Okay, now the watch that got me started in watches, and this is a big deal because it's very personal. It's a little bit different from the story you've heard in the past because we're going to look forward, not just back. A lifetime ago, I wanted a Rolex Submariner, but I couldn't afford one. A common story. Many of us have been down that road. By the time I was done with my research, though, on the very earliest versions of the watch internet, websites like Chronocentric and also very early Time Zone, also the earliest versions of the purists, I was convinced that I didn't want a Submariner either. By that point, I discovered what millions of other watch collectors have realized in the years since, that the Omega Seamaster is more available, just as fine, and offers a lot more selection and variety. Between price, availability, all those cool historic models dating back to 1948, and the huge range of Seamaster branded watches in the collection even today, there's more options than date or no date, gold or no gold when it comes to Seamasters. And that's why today's show is about the watch that got me started as a collector. And that's the Seamaster generally, and where it can lead your collection today. You're going to see some things that are familiar today, some things that are not as familiar, and I hope you're going to discover at least one Seamaster variant that has never been on your radar. So here goes. Okay, you've seen my grandpa's watch. It's the thumbnail for this episode. So you saw it once, now you're seeing it again. And this is a watch I found in a drawer in 2000, 4 years after he died. The watch was lost for years, and I don't think anyone really knew where it was, but I was sorting through a junk drawer, because you find fun things in junk drawers, and I found a vintage Omega. My eyes popped out. Even then, I knew that was something special. I previously believed this to be my grandpa's retirement watch from his company, Remington Electric Shaver. He worked on electronics. But it's even more incredible than that. They gave him the watch for 25 years, not as a retirement gift, but as a milestone gift. Can you imagine a company giving you a watch for reaching a year's worked milestone? It's like something you associate with the 1920s or the 1930s, not the post-war world, and certainly not the Malaise era. So I got to check to see if he ever got a retirement watch, because I do have a few of his others in a box that I keep back at the old family home. So that was my grandfather's 25 years with Remington Electric Shaver watch, and it was the first true high-grade mechanical watch I ever wore with great pride senior year of high school. Okay. 2531.80.00. Admit it, this is one of the only modern Omega reference numbers anyone remembers, and for good reason. I wanted this watch for all the right reasons in the early 2000s. Again, I did my research, Seamaster versus Submariner, and on the basis of price, on the basis of the clasp, the bracelet, solidity, precision, how well it felt as a product made at a luxury level in the hand and on the wrist, this just aced the test. And this was back when they still had a Tourneau at every local mall. And I was able to actually go out and try this alongside a sub, and I was convinced, no second guessing. Pre-1998, here's the thing, there are even some incredible tritium fades. Like, that is not Fotina, that's the real deal. And there's a lot of old diver 300 meters from the early to mid-90s that have dials exactly like that. Never have I encountered a watch that better embodies the difference between a collectible and an investment. These are hugely collectible, and by collectible I mean there is a permanent market for them. People who enjoy them buy them, sell them, collect them, and talk about them constantly online, in forums, and in WhatsApp groups. These are hugely collectible because collectors buy and love them. It's not an investment. You're not going to make any money on one of these. Maybe a very early, unpolished, full box, full paper tritium dial, but even then, at best, you're probably just keeping up with inflation. This is a watch to buy because you love it. And even if you weren't around for round one like I was in the late 90s and early 2000s, there's still lots of great examples out there, so you can buy one and have that same experience of awe that I had when I first opened the box after graduation and saw it. Now, I've only had that feeling twice in my entire watch collecting career. That first Omega purchase new, and this, the De Ville DBD, when I opened this box. Again, you can have this feeling for a lot less money if this watch means to you what it meant to me then. Mine, by the way, wishes you a happy holidays. That's a shot from a few years back. That's a perennial. You'll see that shot a lot on this show. Okay, jumping into the box. BU22, is anyone else's stream lagging? You know, it's probably the platform or your connection. This seems to be working all right because I can see the live feed too. So I'm watching it over the internet, beamed out into cyberspace, all the way to YouTube, all the way to back to me, and I'm not seeing lag, so it's probably you. Mateo C is in the box. Shake at Cedar Point. Love my first watch. Datejust model 116334 fluted bezel blue dial. Wearing it now. We got Daddy D in the box along with Richard Warren. And I am Haji joining in from Calgary, and we're happy to have him. We got Landon Meyer, Casio F91W, checking in from my new home in Santa Rosa, California. We love our Californians. And we got Joshua joining in from Auckland, New Zealand, getting up early. Is Auckland the city of sales of Omega lore? Let me know. What else is happening here? We have Richard wearing his 2015 Overseas Arabic numerals with a black dial, and Dark Star loving my 300-meter James Bond 60th anniversary. And Richard saying, Jim, I have serious envy over your Polar. It is a beauty. And I can confirm that. You can see it on Talking Time with Tim Mosso, where Jim posts frequently. That is our Facebook group, and we welcome you aboard. Okay, jumping back into our regularly scheduled program. Here's something you probably haven't seen. You might be surprised to know I have one. The Seamaster 200 meter. Now this is the DB396-1041. Heck, even Omega doesn't have a good picture of this, and I didn't get a good photo of mine. But Omega dubs this the Pre-Bond, a unique combination of an integrated bracelet and an Omega dive watch. This is actually a watch that was made both quartz and mechanical. I have the quartz. The fun thing is, both of them have wicked tritium fades if the original dials are intact. Now that's one that's got a service replacement dial, but you get a better look at it. This is the mechanical version. And if you want to know how the tritium fades, look at the bezel pearl on that watch. This feels like the Omega Timothy Dalton would have worn in the late 80s if Omega hadn't been fighting for its financial survival in the 80s. They didn't have the money to sponsor James Bond back then. By the 90s, under Jean-Claude Biver, they did. But this is what Dalton as Bond would have worn had he worn Omega in the late 1980s on like the Living Daylights. Surprise, you probably didn't know I own one of these, and there's a reason for that. I literally lifted it off the scrap heap. It was something abandoned 15 years ago at Gothberg Watch Repair. And so it was abandoned, and it was part of a box of junk watches I received. But again, diamond in the rough. I guess they didn't know what they had. That's awaiting restoration in my queue back at my bench. I've got a big backlog. These are incredible value and rare compared to almost any modern Seamaster model. Go ahead, try to find one. Yes, there is that mechanical version, which I believe is called the 368-1041. And both versions are super slim, with the automatic version, as I measured it, only 8.9 millimeters. I think that might be the thinnest mechanical dive watch I have ever encountered. And again, integrated bracelet Omega dive watch from the 80s with a tritium dial. Yes, please. These things have the best tritium fades I have ever seen. Okay, jumping back into our box, Kevin saying, nice Pre-Bond. I'd probably get the quartz to save money and better accuracy. They're both legitimate luxury watches, and they're both still serviceable today, so it's really just a matter of preference. Bullet 411, greetings from Long Island, Tim. We're in my GS Evo 9 diver today. Abdul saying he got his new watch, DUG Purist Type 1, while he was at Prague at the Microbrand Watch Festival. Definitely recommended. Neil B saying, jump ahead, No Time to Die and 007 60th are two of my favorites. I always like to hear about the watches you guys like. And a little comment about how slim that watch is. Yeah, can you imagine in the pre-coaxial world there was an automatic winding mechanical Omega dive watch that was as thin as a Journe resonance? And then we have Jim Millett saying, the Talking Time with Tim Mosso UK crew even have their own coat of arms on matching polo shirts. And you guys will see that on my final show before the holiday. You will see that coat of arms. What else going on? We got a friend wearing his Sartori Biard SB07 Ghost. That is a good one. That is RYGRAWZ. I don't know how to pronounce that. Rye-Graws, maybe? And then we have C. Dak, glad to catch you between Patience and wolfing down Taco Bell. Ah, yes, the life of a doctor. It's not as glamorous as you think. What else is going on? Well, regularly scheduled program. This is probably my favorite watch tonight. And yes, that's saying something considering how much I love my Bond. But I love the romance of the 2003 Seamaster chronograph Apnea. Now, this was a free dive specific complication and model created for only one purpose. That was record-setting free diver and oceanographic enthusiast Jacques Mayol. So I would call him an ocean aquatic enthusiast because he was a record setter, he was a sportsman in that sense, but he also explored what he considered to be man's untapped aquatic potential, interacting with water, the sea, the weather, and the wildlife. And so that was his life's work, and the association with Omega created this watch, which it was actually made in two different variants. So that's the black dial version right there. The black seems to be less common. If we could jump back real quick to that much better photo Omega took of their watch. Yeah, that right there, you can see that each one of those little circles represents 1 minute. And if you take a good look, you can see that the case, the bezel, the dial, the complication, even the hands were custom made for this very esoteric 41.5 millimeter steel watch. Given the limited use case and the sort of off the radar brand ambassador associated with it, this strikes me as a labor of love by Omega, something they just thought was cool because they thought he was cool. And that's the kind of thing that humanizes a big group-owned brand, and I really like that. The case back is a tribute to Mayol and everything he believed about mankind and the ocean operating in harmony. And so this watch is one of my personal favorites because it is so unusual, and at face value it seems to be the kind of thing you'd only use a small percentage of the time or never. In reality, it's the kind of thing you wear all the time just because you love it. And that chronograph will be a talking point to everyone who sees it, even if they know watches really well. So that's a great way to own something that is super cool and unusual without spending a lot of money. That's probably my favorite watch on the show tonight. The silver dial one even has this brushed stainless steel-like aesthetic that's super cool. Just a lovely watch. It's called the Apnea chronograph. Okay, Spectre. It's up there with the Daylight and the End of Days as a memorable watch special edition associated with a bad movie. Now, this came out in 2015. It was associated with the James Bond film Spectre, which, along with Quantum of Solace, was one of the franchise's modern-day low ebbs. Well, forget the movie because the watch is cool. Everything from the unique 0 to 11 calibrated non-diving bezel to the lollipop seconds hand and the slightly different dial makes this really cool and a fun piece and one you won't see commonly. It's always fun to have an uncommon version of a common watch, and that's exactly what this is. So if you want to take a look at the basic 2014 version, you could see that it is a very different dial, a very different handset, and a very different bezel, and that makes the Spectre neat. The other thing that I really like is that it's not overtly branded. There's nothing on there that screams, James Bond! You know what I mean? It's very subtle. Unusual in co-branded luxury goods. Okay, viewer wrist shots number 2. Yandretti leads off with his Corum Admiral's Cup AC45 Tides. This guy buys what he likes, not the hype watches. Never the hype watches with Yan. Kudzuman shares his exit watch, the Zeitwerk, at Lange und Söhne. Kevin Y. of Boston is in the spirit of this show with his Japanese domestic market Omega Seamaster Diver 300 meter, and that is a great one. Zach M. combines Swatch, Blancpain, IWC, and Fjallraven fashion for the holidays. Looking good. Zach M., you might win the theme prize tonight because you themed a green shirt with a green IWC with a green Blancpain. I salute you. Dan V. and his Breguet Type 20 visit the Butterfly Garden at the Milwaukee Public Museum. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com if you like vintage, or the1916company.com if you like contemporary. Let's see what's going on in the box. Question, why does the Spectre have a GMT bezel? Because James Bond, that's why. What else is happening? We have a comment from BU22. I'd love that Seamaster in a vintage size, and Abdul agrees the Zeitwerk is his grail. Jim, I agree. There needs to be another bright red dial SMP. That thing looked really cool. And Motogunner saying that Blancpain was a killer. IWC2. I got to agree. I might be going to Blancpain along with my crew in January, and if we go, we're all going to get like scuba 50 fathoms to commemorate the experience. All right, so let's talk about Extreme Machines, my favorite Omega Seamasters. Ultra Deep Prototype, 2019. No, not the production version that came later. This is the prototype version, which was rated to 15,000 meters, not 6,000 like the production watch, and it was thick as a brick at 28 millimeters with a crystal enormous enough that you could probably use it as a porthole on a submarine. But how much would you just love to see it made, even if only a handful were made and issued, so you could actually buy this? Like, this would be the response to the Rolex Deep Sea Challenge. and I would be all about it. A very cool and very limited use case watch that might wind up being like the Apnea, the thing you wear all the time because it's just so interesting and provokes reactions and discussion. I want to see this in production, please. Omega, make this happen. Or the Seamaster Aquaterra Ultralight. This one came out the same year as the prototype Ultra Deep, but you can actually buy this one, albeit for over $50,000, and that was a shock since this is, at face value, an Aquaterra. But look deeper. It's an Aquaterra in a special grade of titanium, with a titanium dial, a Velcro accessory strap like a Richard Mille, 41 millimeters, a perfect size, titanium movement, titanium dial, with a Velcro strap, 55 grams all up, like an FP Journe Octa Sport aluminum on a strap, also with the titanium manual wind movement. That's right, the movement, which is exceptionally shock resistant to 5,000 G, and anti-magnetic to over 15,000 Gauss. The movement is made of titanium bridges and plates. Plus, unusual for an Omega, it's got a 72-hour power reserve. The watch is 150 meters water resistant. Look at the crown. The crown is fully retractable, like one of the old Space 3 watches made by Zinn for Bell & Ross. And this probably is the world's cheapest Richard Mille at around 50 grand. They even made a Swedish-themed version for pole vaulter Armando Duplantis. Now, he might not need such an indestructible watch in a safe Swedish Volvo, but Duplantis is actually from Louisiana, where they appreciate less secure vehicles. So maybe he would need the ultralight after all. Then there was the 2013 Planet Ocean GMT Platinum Orange ceramic. So this was made to launch the first ever orange ceramic. It's on the bezel of the watch. So what is platinum here? Well, they only made 8 of these and they cost over $70,000. Platinum dial, platinum case, platinum bezel, platinum clasp, even the thread used to stitch that creamsicle orange alligator leather strap, that thread is platinum impregnated. And again, with only 8 made, you will be hard pressed to find any more. It is an extreme machine in every sense. Okay, here's something that is going to be new to many of us in the audience today. 1994 Seamaster Polaris chronographs, the TR378.0885. Yeah, JLC doesn't make the only time-telling Polaris. This is here among the extreme machines. For its extreme appearance, it's almost like a German-cased Mark V Speedmaster. And it has a multi-metal construction where the gold has been co-molded with the titanium of the case. And the wild 41mm Seamaster Polaris Chrono features that co-molded material in a way that absolutely pops and makes the most of it. There's also the discordant angularity of those shapes along with the rounded form of the case and the dial itself. Titanium on a sports chronograph for the ages, guys. And if we could jump back to the dial side, it is a mechanical chronograph, not a quartz watch from this era, which is unusual, and it has some of the world's best tritium fade on its dial, which also includes gold details, so it's a perfect match for the faded tritium. This thing is absolutely nuts, and I would say this probably does have the potential to become very collectible and possibly also fairly valuable, because unlike the James Bond Seamaster divers, there's not a lot of these out there. They very rarely come to market, and when they do, it's hard to find one in good shape. So if you want something very different from a forever brand that will always be there to take care of you, this. Awesome watch. All right, viewer wrist shots number 3. Kai S. shares his exquisite 1980s Audemars Piguet Perpetual Calendar Automatique. The QP, I would say this is either a 5548 or a 25548, depending on when it was made. Nevertheless, that is often described as the model that saved AP. It was launched in '78, I think, and made through the early '90s. And more than the Royal Oak or any Royal Oak, that is the watch that got AP through the quartz crisis. Professor Adrian, longtime fan of the show, he's in the Bahamas at Atlantis with his Manta SkyQuest GMT. Brad impresses with the world's chilliest polar Rolex Explorer 2, Jim will approve. JJD and Mrs. D made it a big night out on the town with matching gold watches from upscale Genevois brands. Paul S. takes his Rolex Explorer to see Spoons in concert in Toronto. Guys, send us your event photos. Send them to Monday mailbag at the1916company.com to see your wrist on my list. More of my favorite Omega Seamasters. Let's see what's going on in the box. Il Phil is making it from Montreal. Glad to have you there. We have James saying, I'm old enough to remember those Polarises in shops. Bullet 411 saying, interesting model, H Lincoln case remind me of Tutuma. And Sean Hansen saying, love orange watches. You and me both. Jim observing that Omega have made some great watches, and that's a fact they have, and there's too many to address, even Seamasters in this episode. We got Ben 10 saying, love gold watches, and 6 Edward saying, Mosso rules. I appreciate that. And then Dark Star saying, Montreal is great. You know what? There used to be a restaurant, Newtown, I think, owned by Jacques Villeneuve. That would have been cool to visit back when he still owned it. Okay, jumping back into our regularly scheduled program, I'll be honest that when I say fine watchmaking, very few of us think of the Omega Seamaster. It's a vernacular watch. It's a mainstream luxury model that is fine enough to be a lifetime purchase, but also common enough that the average man with some prioritization and planning can actually own one. I mean, I bought one as a high school graduate. So, granted, you probably don't think horlogerie when you imagine the Seamaster, but you might be wrong. What's exceptional here is that there are any Seamasters that meet this definition, and here they are. The 50th anniversary piece. Now this is interesting because this was a dive style watch, but it was the 50th anniversary of the 1948 Seamaster, which was best described as a water resistant dress watch. This, in comparison, is a freehand skeletonized and engraved white gold case and artisanal movement. So exotic, and yet the standard bond at right, that's mine, still has so much charisma that it can stand alongside its most exotic derivative and exponent, unbowed. These are both incredible watches. The main difference is the one on the left is handmade, and they only handmade 50 pieces. If you want an artisanal Seamaster with all of the panache of the Bond, maybe something more like what a Bond villain would wear, the watch on the left. And if you want the all-timer, the watch on the right. Okay, Aquaterra World Timer. Before it was available in steel, it was only available in 87 pieces in a platinum case, launched in 2017 with a shockingly extended pedigree. Full platinum case? Oh yes. Partially gold movement? You bet. Gold hands, yellow gold hands and indices. Game on. Cloisonné enamel, center dial. You believe it. And believe more, look down at around 4 o'clock, PT950, media blasted, solid platinum dial around the cloisonné enamel in the platinum case with the yellow gold hands and indices. Take that, Patek Philippe 5131P. The blue-collar luxury watch brand strikes back against the blue bloods, and I'm loving it. Okay. Every year at Baselworld, back when we had Baselworld, Omega would launch these very low-key platinum and exotic material dial watches. And Rolex has its off-catalog pieces, and this was sort of like Omega's answer to those Rolex watches, like the fully gem-set white gold Submariner. So here we have a Seamaster 300 in platinum, right there, and also in yellow gold, and they had special dials. The yellow gold got natural green malachite stone and hands to match. And then the platinum got lapis lazuli dials, which are super cool. And actually, guys, I'm all about this photina, which is a controversial thing, but when it's applied to add warmth to a dial like this as a complementary color, I actually think it makes a lot of sense, and I would rather have it than not have it. Plus, these 2019 special editions, old school Omega, back when you would go to Basel, and that was almost the only way to see watches like this in person, because these are generally not things that get stocked even at fairly large Omega boutiques. They're super cool, and if you want to own, again, an Omega that no one else has, you get everything that Omega is, but you also get those exclusivity elements and the bragging rights with this. All of that, and we're only scratching the surface of the Seamaster's scope and history, which is too rich to delve into here, but I could make some recommendations for things that we didn't discuss so far. Check out the old Speed Sonic chronograph lobster tails from the 1970s. Those are super cool. The 1998 anniversary GMT, which is an anniversary piece from the 50th anniversary that is actually an affordable watch. That was the beginning of the broadsword hands. Type in electric blue dial Omega Seamaster on Google and you'll thank me. Also, take a look and maybe make friends with some of the tuning fork Seamasters from the 1970s because you'll be very impressed. And for what they are, the very first 1957 Seamaster dive watches, they're still quite affordable. They're not hard to find. And I would even go so far as to say that in some cases, they cost less than buying new special edition watches. So definitely check out those original, I want to say they were like CK2913s. Check those out. Those are really cool watches. What else is going on in the box? I am Hoagie, or Haji, saying, oh, the platinum is beautiful, and I definitely agree. Ben 10 says that Omega is a beauty. We have Moto Gunner saying, I learned so much by tuning into the live streams. I had no idea Omega ever did anything even close to this in the SMP. That is why the show is here. Kevin saying, I'm a little curious, speaking of Omega, what model sells more than the Seamaster or the Speedmaster in terms of volume? Unless it's some sort of constellation sold in Asia, that's probably the only possibility, I think. That's the only possibility, unless we're counting something that's not really an Omega, like a Moonswatch. I would say the only thing that has the potential to rival the Speedmaster and the Seamasters would be some sort of Griffin-cased constellation in Asia. All right, viewer shots number 4, Stephen P. of Cleveland showcases his capable Zinn 856 UTC as he enjoys the good life. All right, we love it. Kevin M. and his Tag Heuer Carrera Twin Time brave the cold. I salute you. We have Jim R. who impresses with his Tudor Black Bay 58 and Ducati motorcycle with Pikes Peak clutch cover. We love our dry clutch Ducatis. Bob M. of Cleveland captures his Habring COS Felix pusherless chronograph. That's right, the crown operates the chrono. And the charming Stanley the dog. We love our watches and whiskers shots. We have Ryan M. Thank you, Ryan, for keeping me employed by watching 326 of my videos. And I apologize for the brain damage. Adam B. steals the show with this mic-dropping Zenith Captain Windsor annual calendar chronograph boutique edition with the smoked palladium dial. A great candidate to be my next watch. And of course, next week we will discuss my next watch, which I have chosen. I know what it's going to be. This is not like LeBron during the decision days. No one will be angry or disappointed. It will be a fun show and a great way to send off our program to the holidays. Thanks to Garrett on the switcher. You know, it's like Maverick and Goose. This is the all-star team, the Top Guns. And thanks to you for making the best job in the world possible. Until next week, time out.